This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Paranormal Stakeout. I'm your host, Larry Lawson, coming to you from the X-Zone Broadcast Network, the next dimension in paranormal programming. It's been a great week, folks. I've been really anxious to get back to you from the Southern Command Post down here in Vero Beach in Fellsmere, Florida. Tonight I got a really terrific show for you. I actually have two guests, and we're going to be talking about a subject that frankly is in my wheelhouse. So I'm really anxious to get on with the show. Our first guest you've met before. His name is Mark Nesbitt. He's the preeminent expert of the Ghosts of Gettysburg. He's written about 20 books, including the national award-winning Ghosts of Gettysburg series. He's also the creator of Ghosts of Gettysburg Candlelight Walking Tours, and we had a great show with him not too long ago talking about Gettysburg. But tonight's going to be a little bit different, as we also bring on our other guests, and I introduce her to you as Dr. Katherine Ramsland. She's the director of the Master of Arts in Criminal Justice program at DeSales University in Pennsylvania. She also teaches forensic psychology there. She has published over 1,000 articles, stories, and reviews, and 59 books, including Blood and Ghosts and Haunted Crime Scenes. She's also an expert in the arena of serial killers, and she's appeared on a number of TV shows, including consulting on Bones and CSI. Mark and Katherine, welcome to Paranormal Stakeout.
Hi, Larry.
It's good to be here.
Good to be here. Guys, our topic tonight, haunted crime scenes. As a career law enforcement officer and, frankly, as a career criminal investigator, professional criminal investigator, as well as a paranormal investigator, this subject really fascinated me. So I'm really, really anxious to get your take on it. Now, I got to know how you guys met. I mean, forensics and ghosts, they're not really spoken in the same sentence. Catherine, how did you guys get together?
Actually, it was before I was doing forensics. I wrote a book called Ghost, Investigating the Other Side, and I met Mark in the process of that. And then as I went into forensics, we were friends, and so that's some of the similarities between the kinds of investigative methods we were using, and that's what brought us together to write these books.
What were you doing prior to your work in forensics?
I was a writer, and I was a professor of philosophy at Rutgers University.
Oh, okay. And what drifted you towards the world of forensic science?
I was writing for Court TV, actually, by chance, writing about serial killers and just simply doing writing, and I decided to go back and get a master's degree in forensic psychology, which then led me into an entirely new career, and now I'm a professor of forensic psychology and director of a master's program in criminal justice, not in any way anticipating any of that to happen, but it did happen.
And Mark, how did you take? Here's this author, this individual who's the scholar from Rutgers. How did that all work with you when she approached you?
Well, she was doing the book Ghost, and she'd come with very high credentials from some mutual friends of ours. And when we first started talking about it, I was like, obviously she's a serious writer and is interested in all the things that I was interested in. So when she came to Gettysburg and she interviewed me for the book, We also did some mini investigations as well, and I could tell that she was really, really, really interested in that aspect of it. So that was it. I don't know. We just became friends after that, and the haunted crime scene books were kind of like a like a spin-off from that friendship. At least Katherine inviting me to work with her on those books. So that's how that friendship and writers conspiracy got together.
Okay. Katherine, tell me a little bit about the books. I mean, Blood and Ghosts, Haunted and Chronic Crime Scenes Investigations. I mean, like I said, that whole topic there is one of the things that I really, really am most interested in my work in the paranormal world. Tell me a little bit about those books.
Well, Blood and Ghosts was the first one, and that was really when we started talking about what would it be like to put a team together to complement, when a regular investigation comes to a dead end, can a paranormal investigator add more to that? And also, what can regular investigators bring to the world of paranormal investigation to help them be more careful, perhaps more scientific? And so the two things I thought went together naturally. We even got an FBI profiler involved, who was interested in what we were up to, and so he also comments in Blood and Ghost as well on some of the investigations that we did.
Oh, cool. Well, I'm going to tell you, we're about ready to take our very first break. So when we get back, I want to hear a little bit more about the books, and I want to talk a little bit more about your views on how the two fields come together. So, folks, stay with us. I've got Mark Nesbitt and Dr. Katherine Ramsland with us talking about haunted crime scenes. So stay with us. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Hello, I'm Pete Marsh. With my daughter Justina, we will be presenting the new radio show, Too Good to Be True. If something seems too good to be true, it usually is. But with the help of Justina's amazing gifts, we're going to gain insight into questions that don't yet have complete answers. Have you wondered who built Stonehenge and for what reason? Why are crop circles found in the same region as Stonehenge and elsewhere? Are crop circles a hoax, or are they created with technologies that we have little knowledge of? Who built the pyramids in Egypt and also in other countries? How and why were they built? Was the Titanic switched with the Britannic as part of a gigantic insurance fraud, or for more insidious reasons? What caused the Tunguska event when trees were flattened over an 800 square mile area in Siberia? Will the new insights be too good to be true? Well, that will depend on what you are prepared to believe. Please join us as we start on this journey together. For more information on Too Good to Be True, visit www.xzbn.net.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
Welcome back to this next portion of Paranormal Stakeout. My guests tonight, Dr. Katherine Ramsland and Mr. Mark Nesbitt, talking about haunted crime scenes. So you've written these two books, the first one, Blood and Ghosts, second one, Haunted Crime Scenes. What's the difference between the two? We'll start with you, Katherine.
Well, the difference is essentially the first one is about the investigative process and how a team would work together and some of the investigations that actually have been done, bringing these two seemingly disparate elements together. And the second one really focuses on crimes and crime scenes that have paranormal elements to them, and it's not as much about the investigation.
Okay. Mark, have you had the opportunity, either with Katherine or anybody else, to actually conduct a paranormal investigation where there was a crime scene involved? And obviously it wouldn't be an active crime scene. I think that kind of goes without saying, but maybe one that occurred in the past. Have you been able to do that at all?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the one that jumps out is the one in Bethlehem, at the Hotel Bethlehem. There was a fellow who, this is back in the 80s, who was supposed to have committed suicide in the building there, and the room that he died in is actually there. It's still there. It was a restroom. Now it's like a copy room or something, or closet. And Katherine had discovered this, and we were there. We were talking about another project with the hotel, and so we decided to do kind of a little ad hoc investigation. Well, the lady that was there also had the old plot plan for the building, the old blueprints, and so I actually went in and got some EVP in the room where this fellow had died, and of course everyone had thought that he had committed suicide, although he was shot twice. And Katherine told me that, believe it or not, it's not that unusual for a suicide to maybe miss the first time, but he was also slumped up against the door, and so people couldn't get in. And so that was the other thing that they thought perhaps is the reason it was a suicide. Mm-hmm. But when I asked him flat out, I said, how did you die? The EVP that I got was 2 syllables, both syllables ending in ER. In other words, murder. It certainly wasn't killed myself. It wasn't suicide. So I passed that in. Well, Katherine was there, and we both heard it. And she determined that she was going to pass this on to the coroner there in near Bethlehem. And he is going to apparently, have we heard any more, Catherine, on this? Is he going to still try and open up that case again or get some more information on it?
Well, we've had so many suicides recently. Well, the thing that happened is he took us seriously, and he did look into the old files, and he realized that the way the guy was shot, the first shot, seemed odd to him. And then he also read deeper into the report and realized that that the house where they lived, someone had shot into it 3 weeks earlier, which would indicate the potential of organized crime involvement, which wasn't surprising since this guy did some work for Bethlehem Steel, and back in those days, all that stuff was kind of wrapped together. So he thought, yeah, it does have some interesting elements. It's not a cut-and-dried case of suicide. We also did a reenactment to show that it isn't that difficult to be with someone inside a small room, like where he was found, like a kind of a closet room, kill him, stand him up against the door, and slide out, and then now he's against the door, so it looks as if no one could have gotten in there. But in fact, you could have been in there with him initially and gotten out, and we actually did a reenactment to show that was possible.
No,
and
guys,
also, he was shot at the same time as the fireworks for Music Fest, which I find very suspicious.
What year did this take place?
It was the 1980s, I think 87.
1987, okay. And from your, I'm assuming your research into the coroner's investigation and the police investigation earlier, did you denote or did you find anything that was missed that would help support?
Well, yeah, the original coroner just decided it was a suicide, partly because he was in that room, and it was hard to get in. And I think what often happens is people make quick decisions called threshold diagnosis. They think it looks obvious. I believe he had been depressed, but not. His wife claimed he had not been suicidally depressed. He'd been unhappy about some of the way his finances were going, but she insisted. She took it to court and even challenged it, but did not win. The problem was he had a insurance policy that benefited his partners in business, and it had a suicide clause, and the suicide clause was up, I think, just a few months down the road. So if he really wanted to commit suicide and benefit his partners, he would have waited. Mm-hmm. There were a number of indicators that the original coroner, missed, that the coroner today thinks should be reinvestigated. We tried finding his wife, but were unable to do so. We wanted to question her, but we weren't able to do so.
So there's basically a possibility after your return to the crime scene and conducting a paranormal investigation, the possibility exists the state may reopen that case. I've got that somewhat correct?
I'm not sure if they would, just because there isn't any reason to particularly. I think it would be extremely difficult to find out if he was murdered, who might have done it. Mm-hmm. And there are things missing from the files, and also we don't have access to the family. We need people to answer questions, and we can't find her.
Well, this is interesting. Go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
Oh no, Catherine said it all. She knows more about the crime than I do, but it's a very, very interesting and fascinating thing to compare the original documents, which maybe were done in a hurry or under duress or whatever, to an analysis in current times. Even though we have no body, we it's not right in front of us. But to analyze this stuff again, I think is first of all really interesting, and second, really revealing.
No doubt. Now, this is one crime back in the 1987, to be exact. Do you know of any other crimes that have been solved by use of paranormal techniques?
Well, there was one, a historic crime. It was in the 1890s. Now, see, the problem with this, as you probably know, is that ever since the Salem witch trials, any evidence that's gotten in the paranormal sense is listed as spectral evidence, and it's looked down upon and, in fact, inadmissible in the courts. However, every once in a while, that's in the United States. Every once in a while, there is is one that stands out, and this was one in the 1890s, 1896 or 7, and the woman that was involved in this was her name was Zona Heaster.
Yeah.
And she
the Greenbrier case, yes.
Correct, yeah, in West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And her husband was found with her body, and she was dead, and he virtually almost didn't leave the body until she was buried, and he had her a scarf wrapped around. The family noticed that there was a scarf wrapped around her neck, and she never wore a scarf. And so several weeks later after she was buried, or several months later after she was buried, her mother started getting visitations from her daughter, Zona. And one time she actually stood up, and Zona was in the room, and according to her Zona's head just went completely around 360 degrees, indicating that she had a broken neck to her mother. Well, she took this information to the authorities, and they exhumed the body and discovered that she had died of a broken neck, and so they arrested Zona's husband. They'd only been married like 2 months when this happened, and so they arrested him, and so that's one of those situations where spectral evidence was actually admitted into court, or at least encouraged the courts to continue this case.
So there's another one that's even more recent than that, though.
Okay.
It was in Canada. I don't remember the year. It was in the past 20 years, where a woman was raped and murdered and stuffed into a closet in a building. And the guy who ran the cleaning crew for that building was in there wiping down a table, and he could see the reflection of a woman. He looked up, and there was the murdered woman's ghost pointing to the black tabletop. And he thought of one of his employees who always wore black shirts, and told this to the police. They worked it up, and it turned out it was that employee who had raped and killed her. And they did allow that in court, that this guy said he had seen a ghost. That actually got into the courtroom, but it was in Canada, not here.
Oh, okay. And that was within the last 20 years or so?
I think so, yeah. I was trying to find it, but I'm having a hard time figuring out exactly where it is in the book. But it's in Blood and Ghosts, and I thought that was a very unique case.
Well, are there, either of you, are there any other infamous crimes that have ghost stories attached to it that might pique the interest of a combined paranormal criminal investigation, even if it's a historical one?
Well, I know that. Go ahead, Catherine.
Well, Lizzie Borden is an obvious one. I mean, there's a lot of ghostly activity in the Lizzie Borden house, and I've stayed overnight there by myself when it was completely empty. I did some investigation, but also there was one in Pennsylvania. Duffy's Cut was a really interesting one, where this is railroad workers. These two men, their grandfather had told them stories about ghosts dancing in a certain area that he had seen them and whatnot, and they decided to look into this and try to figure out where it was. And when they did that, they got a forensic anthropologist involved and a whole forensic team, and they began to dig in this particular area, and they did find bodies of people who probably had died from disease, but one of the bodies had a bullet hole. One of the skulls had a bullet hole, and they pieced together a theory that perhaps as some of these railroad workers were getting sick with contagious illnesses, they were just slaughtered and put into mass graves. So that all came initially from a ghost story. So, people saying they could see the ghosts, and so they located the area, and they actually brought a forensic team in, and I think they were able to identify at least one of those people. He had come from Ireland, and they were able to bring his remains back to his home.
And how long ago was that?
Duffy's Cut was, in fact, they have a documentary on it that showed recently.
Prior to the Civil War, 1830s.
It was built in 1832, but their discovery of it was much more recent than that. It was like 2009.
Interesting. Well, guys, we're about ready to take another break here in just a few more seconds. But when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about what you guys have experienced and things that you may have come across during a possible combined paranormal investigation and crime scene investigation. So, folks, stay with us. We'll be back in just a few minutes after this break. This is Paranormal Stakeout.
Dreams are our personal gateways into infinite wisdom. Don't miss shamanic counselor and indigenously trained dream decoder Sandra Corcoran's inspiring book, Shamanic Awakening Between the Dark and the Daylight. This remarkable work chronicles Sandra's 35 years of experience with diverse wisdom keepers and her initiations throughout the Americas and across the British Isles, Turkey, Greece, and Egypt. Sandy's knowledge of symbology, psychology, and myth influence her dream blog and workshops. Sandy offers private tarot readings, international journeys, a meditative CD, as well as her book, Shamanic Awakening, to encourage you as you navigate this earth walk, creating a deeper connection to yourself and all that is. Find this and more at Sandy's website, starwalkervisions.com.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
How would you like to be able to read other people's minds? Well, the next best thing is here. When you know how to read a person's name, you know how the person thinks, feels, and behaves. Each letter in our name holds a key to unlock our true essence. Our name contains both our gifts and challenges in this lifetime. Mnemology science discovers personality secrets hidden in the placement of the letters of our names, including the first and last impression people remember about us. Sharon shows us how to interpret the arrangement of letters as outlined in her book, Know the Name, Know the Person. Sharon Lynn Wyeth created mnemology science after 18 years of research and testing her theories, and has supported thousands of people around the world in understanding themselves and others better. You'll enjoy Sharon's unique teachings as she shares her system to learn the gifts behind your given birth name. Even if you don't like your birth name, there are jewels in this book. If you're thinking of changing your name, ready to name your child, or wanting to get along better with others, this is the book for you. If you'd like to improve your relationships and change your life for the better, get the book today, Know the Name, Know the Person, or visit www.knowthename.com. That's www.knowthename.com.
Hello, I'm Justina Marsh, and with my dad Pete, we are going to present a new show called Too Good to Be True. Together, we are aiming to discover more truths about this world and beyond. Do you have unanswered questions about the world? Do you ever wonder about aliens, conspiracy theories, or the universe? There are many shows discussing subjects such as pyramids or UFOs, but we want to relay this information based on our own research, including from spiritual means. Hopefully, listeners will be helped with their own beliefs and will appreciate the psychic insights that add to the previous research and information. We both look forward to sharing this insight and beginning this journey with our listeners. Visit xzbn.net for more information about when to listen.
Welcome back, folks. This is Paranormal Stakeout with Larry Lawson. My guests tonight, Dr. Katherine Ramsland and Mr. Mark Nesbitt, talking about haunted crime scenes. So, guys, we've spent some time talking about some of the more infamous cases involving ghosts and crime. Now, I've got my views, being both a paranormal investigator and a criminal investigator, but I'd like to get your thoughts on the similarities between forensic and paranormal investigations and how they're conducted. Katherine, would you like to go first on that?
The similarities are to, first of all, understand the nature of observation and how complex it can be in terms of the belief system you bring into it, because sometimes people set themselves up to see exactly what they want to see. And so understanding the psychology of observation, I think, is important for both sides. Also being very careful with any kind of evidence collection, being careful not to get too involved in the idea of doing what you wishful thinking. Essentially,
yes.
You so want this voice to be a ghost voice, or you so want in a regular investigation for you think it's obvious, and you so want the evidence to support you, and that's called confirmation bias. So some of the things that I do, and what we set up in the book, was really to discuss some of the ways that our own perception can distort how we go about doing these things, and so we need to be mindful of that before we even get started, because it's so easy to set ourselves up to see what we want to see. In that case, sometimes we can see a ghost that's not really there, and I've seen that a lot, where people have shown me pictures of what they think are ghosts, and it's very easy to show, no, that's not at all.
Well,
you're looking for that, so you're seeing it.
I've actually seen that on the criminal investigation side as well. You know, you're wanting to
Yes.
put the bad guy in jail, and you put the blinders on, and you aren't as open-minded as you need to be, and you make a snap decision that might not always be correct. So I've seen that happen. Most of the time, no, but I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
Mark,
Yeah.
Mark, you got anything you want to add to that?
Yeah. In the so-called old days, 15 or 20 years ago, when I first got involved in investigations, things were done a little differently. I mean, some people still do them this way. They're methodical. There are protocols that we followed. We videotaped virtually everything to make sure, that if anybody said, well, you faked that, you can say, well, no, we really didn't, because there's a video of it. You can see we're all standing there. And that's one thing that is similar to the way they do investigations at crime scenes. And but it seems like a lot of people have kind of gotten away from that. You have so many ghost hunting groups out now that they don't follow strict protocols, and that's where you kind of get in trouble, because it's easy to let other things leak in, like confirmation biases and not analyzing. Right now I have about 4 or 5 different photographs that I really have to go over with a fine-tooth comb, because the possibility of mistaking these for something paranormal is very, very high.
Yeah.
And you really have to be careful in a lot of this stuff, jumping to conclusions on these things. So, but I think they're pretty much, if it's done with the correct paranormal group, it can be done virtually the same way as a criminal investigation.
Well, see, I would submit that if you use the protocols that we use in the conducting a criminal investigation in a paranormal investigation, I think you increase the chances of gaining evidence that have the possibility, and we all know that we're ways away from that, but we have the possibility of actually obtaining evidence that we could collect, preserve, and present in court. At least that's my goal.
Yeah, I agree. It's got to be done the same way with the same protocols, but sometimes it's hard to do, because you can't. When the police come in, they can cordon off the crime scene. Mm-hmm. When they're all gone, then the paranormal investigators come in, and who knows how many other people have been there at that time. before that time. So it's the two have to work together. I think a little bit more. Maybe in the future that'll happen.
Well, and there's one word that I think would bring that all together, and that one word is training. Mm-hmm. So so that's kind of one of the things I'm at too. As far as equipment, you're conducting a criminal investigation. There are certain pieces of equipment that I would use not only at a crime scene, but I would also use in a paranormal investigation. Catherine, your thoughts on that? Anything you find similar in the equipment used?
I guess first of all, I'm kind of more the skeptic here. So okay. I think it's not just training. I think you also have to have real proof. It's easy to make claims, and I certainly hear claims being made that aren't really very well challenged or tested. They're just the assumptions get out there, and that becomes a problem because no one's going to get trained if they think you're full of it, essentially.
Well, how do we fix that then?
That is one of the issues. You have to be able to get people to understand the nature of confirmation bias and the nature of wishful thinking, and I think that's the hardest thing that I do when I talk to paranormal groups, and they don't like me talking about this stuff. I talk to them about what is the scientific method. It isn't come up with a hypothesis and then go find proof for it. It is come up with a hypothesis and test it fully. That's the hard part, is getting them to understand how to test it fully, because it's, when you're in a haunted place, you don't want to stand around testing your hypotheses. You want to go find the ghosts, right? So it's very hard to hold back and really do a careful job, and you have to find people who will do the careful job. And we use mediums, and I hear mediums making claims, and they're not verifiable. So I'm not going to say, okay, I agree with you, because I don't know that what those people are saying is true. And that becomes a problem on some of the paranormal teams, because people will automatically say, yeah, that sounds good to me. And so our minds work in these logical ways, and if we can make sense of it, we think it's true. But making sense of it is not the same thing as that it's true.
I totally agree, and therein lies the difference I see between a ghost hunt and a paranormal research, investigative research event. People do tend to they want to see something, and I think you alluded to that earlier. Going back to the equipment thing, obviously, Mark, what equipment would you use in a paranormal investigation that I might use in a criminal investigation?
Well, obviously, if you're recording something, you need the recording equipment and the video equipment and the cameras and everything. We may go a little step further in using, for example, FLIR cameras, or in other words, infrared cameras or full spectrum cameras, So some of the equipment is similar. Believe it or not, I'm going to throw something else in that may blow a few minds that probably isn't used all that much in criminal investigations. But, for example, dowsing rods or pendulums sometimes can be used to locate. For example, I have video of my wife, Carol, at a couple of places, historic places, old cemeteries down in Virginia. One was at a church, the other one is at the Wilderness Battlefield, and it's been they've taken out all the they've exhumed all the bodies and taken them to the National Cemetery in Fredericksburg. But she had her dowsing rods, and she was, in fact, I have another one of her also in Shiloh doing the same thing. She takes her dowsing rods and she's walking along, and all of a sudden the rods start to cross, and she steps into an abandoned grave. She backs out, and the rods uncross. She doesn't know where these things are because, it's all covered with they're old graves, and they're pretty much covered with leaves in the fall, and so to discover things like a grave or or something like that, I believe these things can be used. And also the communication aspect of it too. You can communicate in a binary sense with dowsing rods and also with the pendulum to get information that way. So, as far as strictly scientific equipment, if you include dowsing rods into that type of equipment, then you could probably use them for both. Mm-hmm. But Katherine might be able to help a little bit on the equipment that they use in a criminal investigation. Although she has, we have determined that in historic sites, the luminol will work.
Absolutely. I was hoping you'd mention that. Luminol is great to bring up blood that's been decades embedded in wood or some other surface. So, luminol. Certainly, recorders, either audio, video recorders, all those things are similar pieces of equipment that we use too. So,
right. And the luminol, I know. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think you're looking for two different things. I mean, like if you had an investigation involving a dead body with maggots and insects, you're going to be looking for one type of evidence. Versus if you have a burglary or you have a rape, those are going to be very different.
Oh, absolutely.
Tools. So I think the same thing goes for paranormal. It depends on what you're trying to find. And I don't think there will be a lot of overlap because certainly documentation is going to overlap. But if you're looking for, physical evidence versus spectral evidence, those are going to be two very different types of tools.
Do you think, Katherine, we're ever going to reach a point with the improvement of technology, the improvement of techniques? Do you think we're ever going to get to the point where we're going to be able to prove the existence of spirits to satisfy a court? What's your opinion? I mean, you're writing the books on it, the crime scene. It's certainly a fascinating thing, but do you think we'll ever really get there?
I think so, because we are becoming more and more refined in our ability to bring what seems to be untouchable and unknowable into a more physical sensitivity. You will get reports of if somebody saw a person die and they saw a ball of light lift up, and so they can't do much with that now, but maybe one day we will be able to. We'll take equipment into a hospice, for example, and be able to capture this phenomenon. And even study it with much more. It's just like what we're doing with neurophysiology in the brain. We now know so much more, and it's only been in the past 2 decades, and only because we have completely new and highly sensitive tools that can study blood flow while people are doing problem solving. That was not even heard of in the 1980s. I think because we keep pushing the boundaries, we are going to find a way to measure it and be able to demonstrate it.
And I agree. And we're about ready to take our last break here, folks. So stay with us. Ladies and gentlemen out there, a fascinating conversation. Stay with us for the last segment of this episode.
Are you curious? Do you want to learn more about how the world works and have fun at the same time? Study coincidences with me, Dr. Bernie Beitman, MD, on my Connecting with Coincidence radio show, here on the XZBN network. Listen to Jungians theorize, statisticians randomize, true believers evangelize, while I categorize. I dance to the rhythm of coincidences. People who experience me see more of them. Maybe something on the show matches a thought in your mind. Let us know. Expand your mind to the weirdness happening around you. Synchronicity spoken here, there, and everywhere. For more information, put Connecting with Coincidence in your search engine and find my website, my social media sites, and my blog.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
True healing must address 4 levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, for us to live joyful and productive lives. We tend to treat 3 of the 4, leaving the spiritual languishing. If you're tired of the same dysfunctional patterns cropping up in your life, Soul Balancing is for you. Trixie Phelps, owner and founder of Soul Balancing, is a naturally gifted energy healer trained in numerous esoteric forms, including shamanism. Trixie has created a powerful modality that safely and effectively clears your energetic field. A Soul Balancing session can remove interference, heal trauma, and restore your hope. Contact Trixie for a life-changing long-distance session today, www.soulbalancing.world. There's a legend shared by many indigenous cultures of a time when the nations were cast to the 4 corners of the world. Each nation was given a body of sacred knowledge that held a different portion of the truth to preserve. True reality could not be known until all the nations reunited, combining the information. If a single one was missing, the world could not be reborn and darkness would prevail. The Science of Magic Radio is dedicated to reuniting the sacred knowledge. With the understanding, none of us has all the answers, but together we can open new perceptions and possibilities. Through our combined vision, the world can be reborn into a place where darkness no longer prevails. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic daily on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, or visit us at thescienceofmagic.net.
Welcome back to this final segment of tonight's show. It's been a great show with my guests, Mark Nesbitt and Dr. Katherine Ramsland. I do want to mention, folks, I'd like to invite you to visit www.xzbn.net, where you can find all the terrific shows and programs that are offered on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, including yours truly and Paranormal Stakeout. I really want to thank both Dr. Ramsland and Mr. Nesbitt being with us tonight. I want to remind you to take a look at Mark's books, the Ghosts of Gettysburg series, which I personally read, really terrific reads, as well as Ghost Hunters Field Guides and Civil War Ghost Trials. Mark's website is ghostsofgettysburg.com. And Dr. Ramsland, who's one of the authors of Blood and Ghosts and Haunted Crime Scene Investigations, as well as about 55 other books. Her website is Katherine Ramsland, RAMSLAND.com. So I would really like to encourage you to visit those two websites, and also take a look at the Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigations website at www.paranormalfbi.com, and certainly visit me at www.paranormalstakeout.com. Would really like to get some comments and feedback on the shows, so please comment and let me know what you think. Guys, this has been a really fast-moving and interesting hour. I really, really enjoyed this. Got to ask a question. As far as Katherine, being a forensic psychologist, have you had the opportunity to actually participate in crime scene investigations?
I do what I call psychological autopsies with my local coroner, and I also do police trainings and do consulting on some cases.
Have either of you had the opportunity yet to conduct a paranormal investigation at a crime scene? Anything that's recent?
Well, in Savannah, we did some investigating there. Believe it or not, Savannah is a lovely place, but there are a lot of crimes that happened there.
Oh yeah,
and maybe one of the most famous was the one that was written about and became a movie. The Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, the Jim Williams situation down there, and so we did quite a bit of investigating in that. In fact, we visited Danny Hansford's grave, and it's kind of an ongoing thing with the information we're getting from Danny. Danny was the young man that was killed by Williams, and of course that's from that ensued the 3 or 4 trials that he had to go through. And we visited his grave and got a lot of information from that. Katherine, maybe you can talk a little bit more about your good friend Danny.
Well, actually, before Mark got down there, I was in Savannah with Court TV. We were filming a segment on haunted crime scenes, and we went out to the grave, to Danny Hansford's grave, and we were trying to demonstrate how you would do this with a recorder. And it was the middle of the day, bright sunshine and whatnot, but we got a voice on the recorder that said, "This ain't D," just like that. It was very odd. We also went to the home of the murder-suicide of Conrad Aiken, who was an American poet. When he was 12 years old, his father killed his mother and committed suicide in a house near one of the big cemeteries. And I was allowed to come in there at night with recording equipment, and I did get a voice that said, "You want to know what I know."
Well, let me ask you a point-blank question. You're a scientist, Dr. Ramsland. Do you believe it? Do you believe ghosts exist?
I believe they exist. I think most of the supposed paranormal phenomena that is being put forth as ghosts is not.
Fair answer.
That's 2 different answers, I guess.
No, actually, it's not. I think it's a very logical answer. Why do you guys think spirits remain at the crime scene? Do you have a theory or a belief in that or thought on that? Mark?
I have a long theory, so I'll let Mark do it.
Okay.
Well, it's, for doing my research for the ghost books, I discovered a number of reasons why ghosts linger. And many of them apply to the crime scenes. It's a violent death, a sudden death, unexpected death, perhaps a youthful death, unfinished business, guilt, not wanting to face up to what you've done. So there are really a lot of the reasons that are common that people nod their heads about occur during a crime, and especially when there's a death involved in a crime scene. Emotion also has a lot to do with it. We give off when we are under stress. Electromagnetism is in our bodies just at a high point. And it's I know for a fact that Gettysburg has, for example, a lot of granite, and the granite is filled with the granite is filled with quartz. And there is one theory that the quartz, it's called a stone recorder theory, that the quartz picks up these emanations from a human being in stress, and records it. I thought it was crazy, at first, but then I realized that no, electromagnetism and electric impulses do affect quartz, like in my quartz watch that I've worn, one or two for a number of years, like in the computer I'm talking to you on. It is, it's in the computer. So there may be something to this, why that energy remains in a particular site.
And that would explain residual haunts. Thoughts on intelligent haunts?
Well, that's a good question. The big question is, if indeed all this energy remains in the in the walls, how do we get it to come out? There's also the other theory that consciousness, the thing that we communicate with, is not necessarily in our brains. It is outside of us, that our brains are not so much recorders as they are radios. And we need to tune into this vast field of information out there, which includes information on crime scenes, on the dead. And what we need to do is just find the right frequency to tune in. And then we'll start getting this information, which may have to do with the fact why dowsing rods, why pendulums work so well, is because we are totally focused, perhaps in the alpha state, when we're using these things. So maybe that is what lets us go into the realm of the intelligent or interactive hauntings.
The sad part about this, and Dr. Ramsland, I'd like your thought on this, is how do we prove the dowsing rods? And not doubting you at all, Mark, but how do we prove the dowsing rods? How do we prove the pendulums? Dr. Ramsland, where do we need to go?
I think you have to have some documentation of. You have to have somebody there who doesn't know anything about the area. If they use the dowsing rods and they come up with names or they come up with information, you have to already have that information somewhere that you can verify it. I've certainly been with people who give me name after name and tell me what happened there, and yet there's no newspaper account, no nothing. That doesn't interest me, and it doesn't convince me of anything. You really have to have some kind of documentation of a prior event. So it's got to. If it's a murder, it's going to be somewhere in somebody's records, somebody's notes. And I think that's what you have to do. I don't think you can just say because dowsing rods moved that means somebody's here, or a name pops into your head that means spirits are speaking to you. I just don't agree with that. And that doesn't mean I'm right. It just means I'm more hesitant about accepting that as proof of anything.
And I find that a very reasonable bit of skepticism too, Doctor. I might add. Okay, what is the if you had one crime scene that you could do, obviously a historical one, which one would you guys like to conduct an investigation at? Catherine, I'll go with you first.
Jack the Ripper.
Ah. Okay. I think it's a favorite with everybody. Mark, what about you?
Maybe some of the Manson murders.
Well, they did one of those. I think one of the TV shows was at the houses in California a while ago.
A while ago. They're torn down now, or at least Sharon Tate's house is torn down, but apparently the area is still fairly active, and there may be some geological reasons for that as well.
Okay. Where are we going to go with this, guys? What's our next step? Let me ask you a better question. Where's Haunted Crime Scenes going, the series?
International.
Okay.
There's your
London.
Jack the Ripper, yeah.
Okay. Do you ever see this theory, this thought being put into practice with current investigations? I mean, I'm not talking about psychics. I've dealt with folks that have psychic feelings and stuff. But do you ever see us becoming more involved in criminal investigations?
I could see a team that could be called upon. You know, people who do remote viewing, people who get EVP, people who can, you know, that type of thing. Being called in, it would have to be at this point kind of under the table, under the radar.
It would have to. I agree, guys. I'm afraid we are running out of time, so I hate to cut you off. I've got dozens more questions, but we're not going to get to them tonight. So maybe there'll be another time.